Welcome to Woodworking with Wes. We're at the job site where we have been asked to do a bath vanity for a client. Now this bath vanity is just got some issues and we've got to work our way around the issues, and let's point some of those out. We're going to take some measurements, we're going to head back to the shop, we're going to build it, and then we'll come back and do the installation when we get all done. But let's talk about some of the issues. First off, we don't have enough to go all the way deep for a 24-inch deep. We do want to have as deep as we possibly can, but we only want to fit inside of this bump out here. And so we're going to be about 22 inches deep. I already took some of my measurements and we're going to be about 22 inches deep. We've got a double sink. We're going to have a small stack of drawers on that side, a single door sink, a larger stack of drawers in the center, another sink, and then over on this angled wall, we're going to carry the front of the vanity straight, and we're going to have an open section here that will fit up against this angled wall. And I've got a special trick to show you how to find the angle here. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, one of the things that we've got to worry about is this bump out on the floor. On the other side of this wall is a staircase, and this is actually the way the staircase goes down. This is for your headroom for the staircase. That'll all be hidden. You'll never see that when we get all done. We also have a heating and air conditioning vent in the floor. So we've got some things to work around. I'll show you how we're going to work around them. And when we get all done installing, it's going to look so cool, and you're not going to be able to see any of this stuff. That is, we're working through our issues. We're going to hide all of those, and it's going to look way cool. We're back from our client's residence, getting ready to do our vanity. We took all our measurements, you saw the area, and we drew out a design of what we're going to be doing. So let's take a look at what we're going to be doing in our bathroom. Our measurements showed us that we have a total area of 110 inches across the face of this vanity, but we have an angle on one corner, so we'll talk about that in just a minute. We're going to have a small stack of drawers to the left-hand side, a sink, a center stack of drawers, another sink, and then our open shelving on our angled corner. Now, if you've ever watched me do my other jobs, you've always seen my crude drawings that I do for my shop drawings. Here we are with our shop drawings all done. Here's our left-hand side small stack of drawers. Here's our sinks. We always draw it out, list out our sizes and pieces of panel goods and faces that we're going to be using, so that when I get ready to cut, I know exactly what I'm going to do. This is our corner piece, with our angled piece, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. I also drew out what I had to have for a toe kick. If you remember, as you looked at this floor, we have an angled piece coming up from the floor, and we had to work around that too. We'll show you how we figured out all of that stuff. But first off, let's come up close here to a full-size drawing that I did for my angle. I've drawn out our last section of our vanity that has the angle on it. So this is our angle wall. Here is our back wall where our sinks are going to be. In fact, this is going to be the sink cabinet right here. I've drawn it out in full size so that I can do all my angles. Now we have an angle here, and I'm going to show you a little later on in our video. I want you to stick around because I'm going to show you a trick how you can find angles that you don't know exactly what they are. And it's so simple. I'll bet you just would think to yourself, man, why didn't I know that? But it's just a real simple way to find an unusual angle, and we're going to show you how to do that in just a little while. But let's talk about how we're going to put this cabinet together. Now again, like I say, this is going to be open shelving. Here is our panel that goes against our sink. Here's our face of our cabinet, so this is open. Here's our wall, and we're going to make this all out of 3/4 inch material. Because this is all going to be open, this is going to be our rift cut white oak interior. So this will be a full piece here, 3/4 inch. I spaced my cabinet 1/4 of an inch away from the wall, so that if there's any unevenness in this wall, that it will be compensated for by the fact that the cabinet doesn't go right up against it. But on my stile here at the end of my open shelving, I made my stile come clear against the wall, And if there's any unevenness, as we screw this to the wall, that will pull up tight, but our unevenness won't have an issue with it. Our cabinets are going to have 1/4 of an inch solid face on all of them, and I put that also on our rift cut panel. We're going to have one shelf. This line here indicates where our toe kick is going to be. Our toe kick is a 6-inch high toe kick, and it's going to be recessed back as far as we can, so it almost gives kind of a floating cabinet effect. We have to have a little bit of a toe kick because we have that bump out that is going to be an issue that we have to deal with, and so we have to have a toe kick in front of our little bump out on the floor. But this is how far we back, and when we put our cabinets in, you're going to see that it has almost a floating cabinet effect. It's going to be really, really cool. So I had to indicate where my toe kick was going to be. So here's our open cabinet that we're going to do. And as you remember, let me get to my drawing here. This cabinet is this cabinet right here. This 3-inch style out here is indicated at the end of my drawing, goes right against my sink, and this is the sink. Here is my 6-inch toe kick that I was just talking about. This also is going to have a 3-inch granite countertop, and we've indicated that. That only gives us a 27-inch tall cabinet. And so when we do our drawers, we're going to have just 3 even-sized drawers. We're going to have a full-size door that goes to the top. Our left-hand side stack of drawers is 12, 20 for our sinks, 24 inches for our shelves in the middle, leaving us a 34-inch open shelving at the end. Anyway, let's get set up. We have our shop drawings, we know our sizes. Let's get cutting. We're now at the assembly portion of our vanity. I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're assembling, what we're going to be using, and the way we're putting it together. And then I'll just have you watch me put together the cabinets. Now, our cabinet vanity consists of 4 major cabinets and then an open section at the end. We showed you the layout. This is our left-hand small drawer section. And so I went ahead and put it together so that I can show you the construction methods that we'll be using, and then we'll go ahead and put the other cabinets together. Our cabinets are 21 inches deep. They have a 1/4 inch back that is just stapled onto it after we assemble. We assemble our cabinet. I'm going to show you the side here. We assemble our cabinet to begin with by using our 18 gauge brad nailer. We put in some brad nails to hole plate things in place. Then I come back with an 1 3/4 large crown staple, and I staple all of my joints that I've put together with my brad nailer, and that holds it more secure as the cabinet is all put together. When we get all done, because we're using melamine, particle board melamine, it has to be edge banded. I decided on this cabinet, rather than use a vinyl edge banding or iron-on edge banding, I made solid wood edge banding. And I'll tell you a little bit how I did that. What I did first is I took a piece of my rift cut white oak, I planed it down to the thickness of my melamine, so it's 3/4 of an inch. So I milled it down to 3/4 of an inch, and then I cut it into strips, and then took it back to my planer and planed all of those strips down to exactly 1/4 of an inch. So now I was 3/4 of an inch wide and 1/4 of an inch thick. Then I hand sanded the face and edges of my strips, and I stained and lacquered those, and those made my solid wood edge banding, which we will tack onto the face of our cabinet with our 23 gauge headless pin nailer. And so that's the way our cabinet ends up looking. This is, like I say, our drawer section. You can see the nice solid wood edge banding. Our stretchers are between each of the drawers. There'll be a drawer face, obviously, and our drawer guides will go in this. And like I say, we've assembled it all so that you can see how it goes together. We're now getting ready to put the sink together. I'll just have you watch me nail the sink together, and you can see how that comes up. There's our first sink cabinet. We have another one just like it, but with a twist. Let's talk about that in just a second. Okay, as you remember looking at our room when we showed you our original layout that we were going to have to do, and we showed you the room that we're going to be installing, you noticed the angled bump out that was on the floor. That is going to be behind our center drawer section and our other sink. So we have to build another sink just exactly like this, but we have to put a little angled portion in the bottom to allow for that little bump out. I drew that out full size so I would know what to do. This is our wall. This is the area that we have to allow for our bump out. Here is our toe kick. So this is the floor of the cabinet. This is the back of the cabinet. This is the sink part here, and this is the top. And so this is the part that allows for our little angled bump out. And we're going to put a 3/4 inch bottom. We're going to put a 3/4 inch 45-degree angle piece in the back, and then I'll go with a 1/4 inch back just like we did in this one. Other than that, we're going to build it exactly the same. In fact, when we cut our cabinet out, we cut our pieces out exactly the same for the other cabinet as we did for this one. And now we'll go back and make our angled cuts so that our sinks will be the same size, but when you open the door, they'll have the little angle piece in the back to compensate. Let's get started. We're getting ready now to nail our other sink together that has the angled bottom. And I went ahead and I cut out my pieces. I'm just going to show you how this is going to go together. Then I'm going to go ahead and assemble, and you can watch it come together. This is our sides. Here is our angle in the back to compensate for that bump out. Here is the floor of our sink, and we've put a 45-degree angle. And we made our cut in the back 45 degrees. Our bump out is not 45, but it was easier to do this, and it makes a nicer corner. And that's the reason we're doing it, is mostly just because it's a nicer corner. We put our floor on the bottom like that, and then I made this angled 3/4 angled piece that is going to go in, and that's going to nail together like that. Then the back of the cabinet will be here. This is the top of the cabinet. This is the face of the cabinet. So let's go ahead and nail her together. Okay, here is our sink section with the angled bottom. Because it's a sink, we're going to run a little white bathtub caulk around the back of those seams that will make sure that those don't get an area where moisture can cause any issues. But this will be a sink cabinet. The next cabinet that we do is the center bank of drawers, which also has this same issue in the back. And so we'll build the stack of drawers with the drawers ready to go, but the back of the cabinet will go like this. And then I'll show you when we get ready to build the drawers how we're going to compensate for using that bottom area for a drawer. We're getting ready now to finish off our large drawer section. We went ahead and put it together to this point. I wanted to show you how I space my drawers. I make these little, they're just made out of scraps of wood. This piece has to be 8 1/4 because that's the height of our opening on our top drawer. And so I cut a piece 4 inches wide, 8 1/2 inches long, and nailed a 1 1/2 inch strip on top of it to give me a little spacer block that fits like that. Then I can just take my next rail piece and I can just slide it in and slide it right up against the bottom of my spacer piece. Not only does that tell me where to put it, but because my spacer piece is square, that holds my stretcher square. So we're going to go ahead and nail the 2 stretchers in and put our facing on, and then I'm going to show you how we're going to work this bottom drawer. It's neat. We have our drawer cabinet put together now that has our angle piece in the bottom, and we talked about we're going to tell you how we're going to work the drawer guide. The drawer guides that we purchased are 20-inch long side ball bearing guides with a soft close capability. So that's the drawer guides we're going to be using. They take up a half inch on each side of the drawer, so our drawer is going to be 1 inch narrower than the opening. The problem being is if we were to put these guides down here where we typically put it, the drawer guide doesn't fit. So what we're going to do, now our drawers are going to be the same height. We're going to have 3 equal sized drawers, 3 equal sized drawer faces. Our drawers are going to be 7 inches tall, and I'm going to turn this cabinet on its side to show you how I'm going to be able to use the same guide and compensate for that angle in the back. So we're going to lay the cabinet on its side, move it over here. When I would put a drawer guide in, typically, I would put it right to the bottom of my stretcher. The stretcher helps me hold the drawer guide level, and if I mount my drawer, if I mount this piece on my drawer, the space in the guide right here that allows for the mechanism spaces my drawer off of this stretcher 7/16 of an inch, so I don't have to worry about the drawer being sliding on that. But obviously, like I say, I can't do that on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to mount our drawer guide right there where we can go ahead and put it all the way to the back, and we'll mount this piece that we mount to the drawer, this piece right here that we mount to the actual drawer body itself. We're going to mount that up high enough that our spacing is going to be all the same, and we can still have our full extension soft close, but we'll only make our drawer, instead of 20 inches deep, we'll make it 15 inches deep, and it won't go all the way to the back, and it won't come into interference with our angle piece. So that's how we're going to compensate for that angle piece, still have our full length soft close drawer guides, and make it work really good. And when you look at the cabinet, the sink and this drawer piece, this drawer cabinet that have the angle piece in the back, you won't be able to see that from the outside of the cabinet, and you won't even know that little bump out that's in the cabinet or in the room, you won't even be able to see it. So when we get all installed, you'll be able to see that hides it perfectly, still makes our cabinets functioning, and it's gonna be cool. Let's finish up. The last cabinet that we put together, of course, was our open shelving cabinet at the end of our vanity. That is this cabinet. Now, I didn't have you watch me put it together just because, to be quite honest with you, there were things I had to figure out along the way. I drew it out full size. I showed you that drawing, and everything kind of went according to plan, except for this little angle at the bottom in the back. Now, remember the little bump out that we talked about? In fact, we had to compensate for it in one of the sink units and in our large drawer unit. Same thing here. This little angle piece in the back compensates for that bump out, but it has a compound angle where our wall is at an angle and now our little bump out is an angle, and it wasn't a true angle. It was really kind of difficult to figure out, and basically what I ended up doing is chop to fit. I knew I wanted a 45 degree on both sides of my angle, so on the top and the bottom I had a 45 degree cut. This angle here that you see was not a true angle, and it was kind of difficult to come up with. And so sometimes you're going to get into a position like that, and you're going to have to just kind of mess around in order to get the angle that you were working with, and that's exactly what I had to do. And I didn't want you to see me do that because it wasn't very easy. Anyway, it's open like this so that we can stain and lacquer it. Before we put in our shelf, this shelf will go in. After we're done, we'll stain and lacquer this separate. And so after we get this all stained and lacquered, we'll go ahead and install the shelf, and then this cabinet will be ready to install. It's like I say, a very unique little cabinet. We had our grain going horizontal to match the grain in our doors, but rift cut white oak, again, very cool. We're now at the final part we're going to be doing before we head off to the paint shop, and that's our toe kick. Now, I drew the toe kick out here, the sizes that I want, but I went ahead and built it and put it all together so that we can walk through and explain everything that I did and the cuts that I made, rather than have you watch me make cut pieces and nail together. It's a relatively different toe kick because we're working around that bump out and that corner wall. Here's where our bump out is, here's where our corner wall is, but let's go ahead and take a look. First off, remember we drew out that corner wall section. This is our corner wall. This is the face of our cabinet down here. We're looking in. This is our open shelving cabinet that we just finished. And I drew this line across here to tell me where my toe kick was going to go. And so I drew my line across my toe kick. I put a back piece to support against the wall and a stretcher to go front to back and let this open for our bump out. So let's take a look at what we did and see how we lined up. I'm going to move my toe kick down here. Let's set this out of the way. Here is our corner piece right here. Here's where our bump out is. Here's where our open cabinet goes. This is the face of our cabinet and the face of our toe kick. Remember, we're 6 inches high. Our cabinet will be 5 inches beyond our toe kick so that we'll have a kind of a floating cabinet effect. When we put our corner piece together, we give it some extra support here. We made our angle against the wall. We provided a cleat down here at the bottom. Not only does that help us square it up, but we're on a tile floor. And so as we go to level this is going to be a little difficult to level because we're going to be screwing it to the wall through our back pieces. And then we're going to be trying to level with these little cleats that we put on the bottom. And then we'll put some epoxy or not epoxy, but a construction adhesive or something that will seal it up against the floor. Our total overall length was 105 inches on our toe kick. It was 110 inches on our cabinet. So we had to have a seam. I decided to put the seam in front of our bump out, and if we measure our cabinets, we have a 12-inch cabinet, a sink, a 24-inch drawer section, another sink, and that comes to this point right here. So we lined our seam up against the end of our cabinet run and at the beginning of our open shelf cabinet. So our open shelf cabinet here, sink, drawer, sink, drawer. Also down at this end here, we had a vent. Now the vent is the only access for heat and air conditioning to this room. So rather than put a closure piece in there, I decided to just put a scoop at the top of the toe kick to allow the air to flow over and out into the room, and that way you wouldn't see that there was a vent. You won't be able to see this scoop from walking in the room because it'll be hidden up underneath the cabinet, but it will allow ample airflow. And this is because it's the only air into the room of heating and air conditioning, it would be open all the time anyway. We made the face of it with our rift cut white oak, and we've puttied and sanded, and we'll stain and lacquer this along with the cabinets. And that's how we did our cabinet. And again, not hanging cleats, but corner blocks to keep us square and to use for leveling. Once we get this all in and leveled, this area where the vent is, I'm going to take some expanding foam, run around the inside of this and seal that off so that our vent area is closed off completely, so that all the air will go out and not escape into the other areas. So here we are. Here's our toe kick. We'll get it stained and lacquered. We're getting ready for installation pretty soon. We are done with all of the assembly of our cabinets. Now we're at the staining lacquering portion, being in the paint shop. We've already stained the back side of our drawer faces, and we're getting ready to stain the front side of our drawer faces, the inside of our corner cabinet, and of our angled cabinet, not corner cabinet, and the face of our toe kick. We're going to go ahead and stain everything. Everything will get 2 coats of lacquer on the back, 3 coats of lacquer on the front on our drawer faces, of pre-catalyzed clear finish, and then we're going to be done with our paint shop portion. So let's get started. We're getting ready now you watched us stain the front of our doors and drawer faces. We're getting ready to stain the inside of our angled cabinet. The stain that we are using is Sherwood wiping stain that has been mixed to a custom color that our client has chosen. We're just wiping it on and wiping it on with a rag and wiping it off with a paper towel, and then we'll lacquer over that with a pre-cat lacquer. But let's just watch this as we go through and stain and wipe off and clean up. This is a little difficult cabinet to get into, and it also has some lighting issues because of the fact that it's in our area that we don't have enough light. But anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get it stained up and ready for the paint shop. Just watch as we go through.
Well, we've completed our staining. I apologize for having my fat head in the way when we were doing the inside. There's nothing else I can do about that. Too big a head. But anyway, we also stained the front of our toe kick that we built. So we now have doors, drawers, toe kick, and cabinet ready to go. So all we have to do is clear lacquer, and the paint shop portion of this is now also done. We're looking good.
After we completed our work in the paint shop, staining and lacquering our doors and drawer faces, we came back to do a little pre-assembly before we head to our installation. We put our door on our sink cabinet, soft close hinges. We put some drawer faces on. This is our large one drawer stack in the center. This is our small drawer stack over here. And I just kind of wanted to talk about the fact we built drawers, videos with drawers before, and I'll go make a link of that. We built our drawers the same way. This particular job, we used a full extension side guide with soft close. We've actually done a video and showed you how to install those too. But anyway, what we're going to do is that we're going to put the drawer faces on our small stack of drawers, and I'm going to show you how I do the preliminary installation of my drawer faces. Now the drawer faces are on here only preliminarily, because when we get to the job site and everything's screwed down, we do our final adjustments so everything lines up the way it's supposed to, and we are able to do that because of the way I put my drawer faces on. So let's go ahead, I'll show you how we put a drawer face on and how we get ready to go out for our first job site installation. I'm going to show you how I do a little bit of a layout trick to help me get my drawers spaced the way they're supposed to be. As you can see, I start at the bottom, work my way up. So this is the bottom drawer of our small stack. I turn my drawer face down, set my drawer on it. I've made two spacers that I can put on either side. This gives me the equal size on both sides so that I've centered my drawer to my drawer face. Having taken my measurements in advance, I know that this will be my spacer on the bottom of my drawer. So let me turn around here, so I can show you the back side of my drawer. So I would put this spacer here. I would pull this down flush with the bottom, and my two spacers on the side flush with the side. So that would be how I would set up my preliminary. Then what I do is I staple my drawer to my drawer face with just 4 1-inch staples. What this allows me to do is it allows me, after I get on the job site, it allows me to just take my rubber hammer and just bump this drawer face around ever so slightly until I put the final anchoring screws in, and that helps me get it aligned perfectly on the job. And so we have our spacing. Okay, am I still right? Yes, I am. Yes, I am. So I would take my staple gun and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Take my pieces off, and let's take it over here and slide it in. We line our drawer guide up with our drawer guides. Slide it in there, and I always put it all the way in and then pull it out and give it a little push for soft close. And there's our first drawer face, and we'll follow the same procedure the rest of the way up. And we, like I say, we do this in the shop before we head out to our install, so that when we get to our install, we've got this part all taken care of, and it's easier to adjust on the job because we've already done our spacing here at the shop. So let's see it install. Okay, installation day. We're here with our beginning to put our cabinet in. You saw us make the toe kick, and the toe kick goes in first. I always put my toe kicks in as big as I can make them and level my toe kick, and then my cabinets will sit on my toe kick And then once my toe kick is level, my cabinets are all level. Okay. Well, I made it tight. Good. That's what we wanted. Be nice and tight. Now we talked about the fact that we made our toe kick 6 inches tall so that we could give our cabinet kind of a floating cabinet effect. You can see how our toe kick fits around our bump out and is straight across the front. We'll go ahead and tie this in and level it and then start bringing cabinets. We now have the toe kick in leveled. Like I say, I always do that first, level it all the way across. Then when I put the cabinets on, they're level, so we won't have to worry. We'll still check them, make sure, but we won't have to worry too much about level. The next thing is we put our first cabinet in, the small stack of drawers against the wall. We're getting ready now to put the sink in. I'll drill the holes for the plumbing, and then I'll tie these 2 cabinets together, and then I'll tie them to the wall. And then I'll tie the other cabinets together as we work down the row. And so that's the way I typically install, is I try to get a couple of them in and get them squared up and against the wall. Then I tie them to the wall as these 2 are tied together. And then the rest of them just kind of stack as we go down the row. It makes a nice, easy installation. And you can see how we're already hiding our little bump out on the floor. And you'll see when we get to the cabinets that are over the top how we put that little angle cut in the bottom of our cabinets is going to just compensate for that bump out so easily. But we'll go ahead and get the sink put in now, then the large stack of drawers, another sink, just work our way down the row. Well, we've got both sinks and both stacks of drawers installed. Now we're getting ready for our
open shelf unit. And this is where I was going to show you the little trick how to find a corner. Now, typically, corners are 45 degrees, but they don't have to be. And so I have found over the years that the best way to find a corner is to just take 2 pieces of 1/4 inch material and just put them like this and mark you a line, and then go back with your angle gauge, and that will tell you off of this. Let's see, how are we here? We're here this way. So, oh, we marked the wrong piece. Never mind. Okay. Do it this way. This is much easier. Okay, we'll mark this line, and then we'll go back and we'll measure our angle from here, and this will give us the angle of this wall by finding out what this angle is. Now, I've already done this previously, and I found out that this wall is actually a 45-degree wall. But like I say, it doesn't have to be. And when you get ready to lay out your jobs and everything like that, you need to know what this angle is so that you can build to match. And that's the way I have found my angles in the past, by just bringing a couple of pieces of 1/4 inch plywood or material and marking my thing, and then I can go back with my angle gauge and I can find it much easier off of this than I can trying to work my angle gauge in the corner of the sheetrock wall. Here we are with all of the boxes in. Just in the spirit of full disclosure, as we were putting them in, we noticed that we had an alignment problem. This wall sinks back a little bit, and so the cabinet isn't tight against the wall here, but the cabinet is lined up with the seams in the tile and with the toe kick, and so it's this wall that isn't perfectly square. Luckily, when they put the countertop in, this gets a granite countertop, and they'll scribe it to the wall. But the cabinets are square to the floor and to the tile seams, and so we'll get the doors and drawers put on, and we about got this installation wrapped up. Well, we have our installation done, except for one thing. Our client is going to be picking her own hardware, and we haven't put the hardware on yet. One of the things that I do, however, when I put hardware on, is I go through and do all of my final adjustments for my doors and drawers when I put the hardware on, because the bolts that hold the drawer face hardware, that actually helps hold that drawer face in place also. So I'm not going to do my final adjustment until I put hardware on, and just know that that is part of the end product of my installation. Now, let's just go over a few things. Our cabinet was 22 inches deep. By the time we have a 3-inch countertop, it'll be 36 inches tall. It's 110 inches long total. We had a 12-inch base cabinet with 3 drawers, a 20-inch sink, a 24-inch base cabinet with 3 drawers, and another 20-inch sink, and then our open cabinet on the end. That was the basic style that she chose for her cabinet. Again, white oak, rift cut white oak for our drawers. And you saw our video that we did for the drawer face and door build on this. Take a look at that. We'll want to link you to that, because it's kind of a unique door. Not a hard one to do, but it gives it a real contemporary look. We're back to the final part of our vanity install where we're putting the hardware on. It's finally come in. We're using our homemade jig that we use. I have a video that I made and showed you how to make and use our homemade jigs for installing hardware. It's very cool. You should watch that. And we're just going to go ahead and finish off the installation and come back and see how it looks. Well, our vanity turned out pretty nice. I hope you've enjoyed our video of designing, building, and installing a bath vanity. It's been a fun job, and we've really enjoyed working with our client, and we hope to see you next time on Woodworking with Wes.